today, I wanted to talk a little bit about the TikTok ban in America. So earlier today, a few hours back, I don't know exactly what time it went down, TikTok was banned in America. This has been coming for a long time. 2020, I believe Donald Trump first promised to ban TikTok. Yeah, July 2020, President Donald Trump says he is considering banning TikTok as retaliation for China's alleged mishandling of the COVID-19 pandemic. And in August, Trump issues a sweeping yet vague executive order banning American companies from any transaction with ByteDance and its subsidiaries, including TikTok. Several days later, he issues a second order demanding that ByteDance divest itself of TikTok's US operations within 30 days. But so this TikTok ban had been a long time coming. It was one of these things which, as I think I mentioned in the video about disposable vapes and sort of US-China tensions, one of these things which initially seemed like kind of this ludicrous Donald Trump, like vaguely xenophobic, anti-China things that he kind of plucked out his bag of moral panics and threw out. And then which, during the Biden administration, kind of got repackaged and absorbed into a bit of a new normal, right? As tensions with China stopped being something which was viewed as kind of ludicrously tub-thumping and jingoistic, and began to be viewed by the Democrats and kind of reframed as this really logical thing that was happening. But this TikTok ban has slowly worked its way through the system. At one point, it brought all of its servers onto US soil. I believe at one point there was a protest in which a bunch of TikTokers went to Washington to protest and petition the government to, not ban TikTok. Well, I think there are legitimate arguments for most of the tariffs and the even the TikTok ban. I think there is a legitimate argument for that to happen. I just think it's interesting the different lenses it's viewed through depending on who is making that argument at any given time. And so we gradually got there today, and in what does feel like a massive blast back to that first Trump period of just bizarre toing and froing of news, mere hours after it went offline, TikTok began making plans to bring it back because Trump has decided that the ban, which he instigated, he is now going to oppose. He is going to, having set the little domino that became the massive domino in motion to ban TikTok, he has decided he is also going to be the one to save it. Which is just very Donald Trump, isn't it? It is a sort of whisso back moment. But the conversations which have existed around the banning of TikTok have been really interesting, I think. Particularly in terms of the rhetoric which has existed around it as a social media platform. In terms of whether it is a legitimate security threat or not, that's a bit above my pay grade. I do think it is interesting that the same practices which TikTok is engaged in are practices which other social media companies are also engaged in. I think we sort of have in some ways forgotten the Cambridge Analytica moment in which it turned out that Trump's first victory had used data from Facebook on an unprecedented, massive scale in order to kind of use that big data to divine ways to influence certain groups in society and kind of work out the kind of pressure points which could maybe push people towards voting for Trump or voting for Brexit in the UK. However, I don't necessarily know if these are, reasons to go to bat for TikTok. One thing that's worth saying before we dive into some of the conversations of the rhetoric surrounding TikTok, and what I really want to talk about today is the rhetoric surrounding TikTok in terms of how users view it and how it actually operates. Some of you will know that these are some things that I've talked about a fair bit in various videos that I've made. Going to be very pretentious now and bring up my own YouTube channel to look through some of the stuff that I made. But I've made a few things about how social media platforms work, or platforms more generally work. Came up a little bit in the first Vaponomics video, came up a little bit in why YouTube sold microphones, a little bit in AI theft, Griftonomics, rise and fall of Patreon. It's sort of been a bit of a running theme through a lot of my stuff. I think I find the overlap between sort of design in the sense of a social media platform, whatever, having certain functions that it does and doesn't do and how that guides our behaviors on them. The overlap between that and a economy in which either there's an internal economy, such as on Twitch with subscriptions and Twitch bits. Sorry, I'm not very good at Twitch, as I say. Or whether it's even like stuff like economies of likes on Facebook, right? Or the economy of like adverts on YouTube, whatever it is, and all of these things kind of influence how people act on them in other ways. And then there's the cultural stuff, right? In many ways, those economies and those design choices decide upon the culture of a certain platform. But then also people, find stuff within that. They either run with the barriers and springboards that the platform gives to them, or they kick against them in ways that are interesting as well. And the ways in which this has come up in TikTok, in regard to TikTok, has been really interesting. So I was reading a piece by Taylor Lorenz, which I thought was interesting and really perceptive in some ways. And I think maybe believes in some of the rhetoric a little bit too much in other ways. But yeah, I want to sort of use this article as a bit of a jumping point, because I think it touches upon some bits that are really interesting. And there's some bits where I think it maybe drinks the Kool-Aid a little bit. So Taylor Lorenz here sort of writing that when TikTok shuts down tomorrow, millions of creators are set to lose their platforms instantly. And I think this is kind of if there is a thing to be worried about the loss of here, I think we can really feel for, sorry, and I'm not going to read this line by line, but I think we can really feel for the creators or enthusiasts or whoever it is that have built up platforms on TikTok, built up audiences on TikTok, and who now are staring at the potential that might disappear overnight, or at least were. They may have had it all saved again, because there's this notion of platform risk in business, and particularly online business. If the thing that you are doing, whether that is selling stuff, whether it is writing stuff, whether it is broadcasting video, if that is really heavily reliant upon one platform, say TikTok, but it also could be Amazon, it also could be Etsy, right? If you're incredibly reliant upon that platform, then all it takes for all of your stuff to kind of explode in some horrible bubble is for that platform to go down and to stop existing, as is happening with TikTok. That platform to ban you, right? There are a lot of people who make YouTube videos, for example, who, if YouTube said one day, you're banned, or even if you're not banned, you've been kicked out of the partner program, right, where you get money from the ads, that would effectively be the end of their video making career, right? The end of they wouldn't be able to do that anymore, right? Because their audience is incredibly tied in to that particular platform. I'm probably very much in that basket myself, and so I can really see that. I think there are going to be a lot of people who make TikTok videos who are really worried about that. I will say, TikTok has never been particularly good at paying the creators that make videos upon it money. I think I'm right in saying views on TikTok have always garnered minimal income in comparison to any other platform, or particularly in relation to YouTube, I guess. And that's partly because it's just so hard to for TikTok to kind of, looking at it from their perspective, to monetize those short-form videos. Short-form video has become incredibly popular, whether that's on TikTok, whether that's on Instagram, whether that's on YouTube, on YouTube Shorts. However, it's so much harder to put adverts on it in any really sort of way that works well. In many ways, YouTube videos is quite easy for the product team at YouTube to imagine how that could work, because it's not super different to broadcast television. People watch particularly these days where a lot of YouTube videos are half an hour long or so, somewhere between 10 minutes and 4 hours long or whatever. And I mean, even these days, a lot of people are watching YouTube on their televisions. But essentially, you can take the show and you can pop a bunch of adverts in the middle somewhere, and that kind of makes sense as a system for monetizing that stuff. Short form video is incredibly popular. In fact, like, the numbers of views which TikToks get in comparison to a YouTube video is often much bigger. The challenge is that a lot of those views are reasonably quick, right? People are watching for 5-10 seconds and then they're skipping ahead. And for the most part, the videos are much shorter, right? You can do 10-minute TikToks. Yeah, 10-minute uploads still available. Basically, they trialed it for a while, and I think effectively people didn't watch those longer videos because they basically started to walk it back a little bit. You sort of can still upload a 10-minute TikTok, but they make it they don't encourage it in the way that they do encourage you to do a 60-second one. But that sort of means that the adverts have to be between videos, and if it's showing you one advert every 5 short videos, then whatever revenue from those ads gets to TikTok has to be split between all of those. You can often skip the ads anyway. So any discussion about the TikTok ban, I think I have to be aware that I do not make my living on TikTok, and therefore I can see why people who do think about this in a very different way. So one of the really so the sort of negative part of TikTok was always that I don't know what the maximum amount of money anyone was making through TikTok through the Creator Fund was. I would imagine like significantly less than you think. I think there is. Should we see if we can find okay, so here it says, meet the top TikTok influencers who face losing up to $10,000 of income a month as the US shutdown looks imminent. Like, if you think about it, this is like one of the most successful video, quote-unquote, content platforms at the moment, at least up till today. And maybe going forward, if the unban does go ahead, and its top creators are making up to $10,000 per month. That's a big number, right? But it's not exactly like mind-blowing. Right? It's an incredibly healthy salary if it is one person making those videos and they have very low expenses. But it's not the big bucks, right? I don't even know if this is only inclusive of the money that people are making through the Creator Fund, whether it includes any TikTok shop stuff they're doing, if it includes any integrations they've done. I don't know, but it's amazing that, Fortune are writing this article and the best number they can come up with as because when you're writing this headline, you're looking for a big number, right? If you're the journalist writing it or you're the sub-editor deciding what the headline is, you want to find the big number, so you can go meet the TikTok influencers who face losing up to $1 million of income a month, right? And the fact that they've only managed to come up with $10,000 doesn't suggest people are making huge amounts of money from making videos on this app. And as I've said, some of that is because TikTok is a bit stingy with how much it shares. Some of that is just that it is really difficult to monetize short form video. There just isn't huge opportunities to put adverts in it. Whereas, I don't know, if someone makes a hour-long YouTube video, there's potentially a few ad breaks in that, all of which that can have an ad, and therefore, you could have 4 lots of 2 adverts within a YouTube video, and you've got 8 ads. A TikTok might have a fifth of an ad, maybe. One thing I have found really interesting, though, are 2 ways which Taylor Lorenz does kind of lean into a little bit here, but I've also seen in lots of other places that TikTok has been described. One is as this sort of hub for progressive speech and activism, Lorenz suggests here. The other is as a community. Because I don't want to be the massive skeptic in here. I'm not trying to be super contrarian. But I think there is a lot of progressive content and videos on TikTok. I would suggest that is true. I would suggest that I have seen a lot of that, engaging with the platform. I would question whether that makes it a hub for activism. In fact, the sort of link that Taylor Lorenz gives to kind of suggest that this is true is that it links through to an article in The Guardian by Awa Madawi, which kind of makes a similar argument which is something I've seen a few times, right? Is the argument that the US government isn't banning TikTok because of these security concerns that it has talked about, that it is banning it because it's this like progressive hub, that it is this global campfire around which the revolution is being planned. And I think there is a difference. And so kind of Taylor Lorenz's sort of suggestion, sort of link to kind of substantiate that, comes back to this Guardian article, which broadly points to a Emily Ratajkowski, sorry, I don't know exactly how to pronounce her name, quote where she suggested that this was the case. I think there has been a lot of I think there is a lot of kind of progressive content and videos on there. Whether that makes it a hub of activism, I think, is more of a question. A sort of word that I've seen thrown about a lot in relation to TikTok and in relation to what might be lost if the TikTok ban does go ahead is community. Like, I sort of want to see if I can sort of find more discussion of it. I can't, because it's just going to come up with stuff like community guidelines. Because I don't really know that TikTok is capable of fostering community in any kind of real sense of the word. Like, I don't read the kind of like old man shakes fist at cloud being like, you can't build communities on the internet, because I think you can, and I think there are other platforms wherein some sense of community is really possible. I don't think TikTok is. In many ways, TikTok is, by design, an incredibly ephemeral platform. Clips are generally minutes long at maximum. Many are much, much shorter. I don't regularly post to TikTok. It's not something we sort of have time to do properly. But I have posted TikToks in the past. I did like half a month where I posted loads of TikToks, and I got, I managed to get some followers, and I had some videos which did reasonably well. And what you saw is that some of them banged straight away and then dropped. Some of them didn't do much of anything for a little while, then suddenly started getting loads and loads of views and then dropped off. But the half-life of a video in terms of how long it remained popular for was really, really short. And I'm sure this is different for other videos, but I had some that got millions of views, I think, and they would they would spike up, get loads and loads of views for a bit, and then drop off. The way in which it works in terms of, like, technically you can follow someone on TikTok, and that's a bit like, my assumption in terms of how that works in the algorithm would be that it's very similar to how YouTube uses it these days. These days you can subscribe to a YouTube channel. However, it is like a minor indication that you might like that creator's work. However, if you don't click that creator's work in the future, then they won't show you more of that creator's work, regardless of if you are subscribed to that person and you aren't subscribed to someone else. But so not only is the half-life of a video really short, actually the chances that you discover the same creator twice are relatively low. You might watch enough of their video that it recommends you that same person's video again a few times, but it's pretty fickle in terms of if you suddenly skip past a couple of that person's videos, it will very quickly stop suggesting them to you because it's decided that you don't like that person's videos anymore. And this has often been one of the fickleness of it in many ways has been one of the draws of it, because it also allows people to gain audiences without having an existing audience, right? YouTube, because you have to click on the videos in the home screen, the fact that you might recognize some of the faces and thumbnails means that you're more likely to click the videos of people you already know, in a way that, because TikToks just start playing, there is a bit more of an opportunity for people who don't have an existing audience to get one. I mean, that element of it I think is really interesting. And because of all of this, there is a pretty healthy commenting culture on TikTok. However, because of the ways in which those videos fly past, the chances of stumbling across the same person to talk to again aren't super high. So my feeling is that it can sometimes create the feeling of community. If you are stumbling across, and I think that can be really important, right? If you are of a particular political persuasion, if you are going through a particular thing in your life, and the TikTok algorithm, incredibly well tuned as it is to find stuff that you will like, if it is sending you stuff that relates to that moment in your life, it can make you feel held. It can make you feel listened to and connected to the world, and as though other people are going through the same things as you. And I think that feels like community. I really question whether it is.